Okay, a confident bias is like you have a bias perception towards something or bias effect towards something, and then you even overconfident about the thing that are you biased about. So you become so biased. That means you are confident about the thing that you are biased. So you tend to overestimate something. So in terms of performance, for example, you tend to overestimate the performance, your ability, your performance. So it's actually normally happen to those who have intellectual and interpersonal abilities that are weakest. That means you are weak in terms of intellectual and interpersonal skills or abilities. So those who are weak in terms of intellectual and interpersonal tend to overestimate their performance or their abilities in terms of their biases. Another thing is anchoring bias. Anchoring bias means they also bias towards something. For example, they may have some bias when towards something, so they persist on this bias. They are persistent, they fixated on the initial information that they receive. That means that the bias about, so they fail to adequately adjust to the subsequent information. So because of the first information, they already biased towards something. For example, if your friends telling you something about some persons, and you have that kind of information, maybe your friends didn't like this person, so they inform you about some information, bad information about the other person, so you tend to have a negative perception about that person. So you have that biases against that person, so you tend to stick with your bias, even though you have that wrong information, but maybe because you didn't know. So the first information that you have, the bias information that you have, you tend to fixate it. You tend to consistently bias, even though you receive information later on that this person is not like your friend described. So you still persist on relying on trusting the information, that the first information that you receive. So anchoring means like you anchor, you fixated, you persistent with your first information even though it is wrong. So that's anchoring bias, and then you fail to adequately adjust to the subsequent information that come later on. Next is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, you try to verify the information that you receive. Maybe the information that you receive is not correct or have bias in somewhere, or so you tend to find the information to confirm the information that you receive at first time. So confirmation bias is also a selective perception. You tend to seek out information to reaffirm your previous choice. That means you already have the choice, you already have the biases towards something. Maybe you do not know the information or thing that you are biased about, but you try to find information to confirm or to reaffirm or verify the informations or the thing that you're biased about. So this confirmation bias, you try to verify the things or the biases that you have. Availability bias is tendency for people to base judgment on information that are readily available. That means you tend to bias or favor towards some things when the information about something is readily available. Sometimes when you read informations that are easily available, and then you tend to have that information straight away, and then you tend to have biases towards something. So it depends on the information, the availability of the informations. This information availability that you have, the availability of information that you have may influence your perceptions towards something. So information's biases, the keyword here is the availability. So it's referring to the availability of the information that is readily available. Escalation of commitment, you staying with the decisions even though it is clearly wrong. For example, okay, escalation of commitment. For example, if someone in the relationships, like a girl in the relationship with a boy, and this boy is very aggressive, very obsessive always maybe do something bad to this girl, but this girl always want to be in the relationship even though that guy is not really a good one. So always maybe do something bad to her, but she still to be in the relationship even though she know that that boy is a wrong one for her. So she want to stay with the decision of staying in the relationship even though there is a clear evidence that being in the relationship with that kind of oppressive or aggressive boy is clearly wrong. So escalation of commitment, that means the person want to be in that decision even though it is clearly wrong. Randomness error is tendency to believe that we can predict the outcome of the random event. For example, maybe out of sudden, there's you meet someone, and then you tend to say, "Oh, this someone may be right for me." For example, because out of random, this someone suddenly appear, and then you are looking at that time. You are looking into a relationship. For example, so you tend to be in this you tend to have that kind of tend to kind of feeling that that person is right for you because suddenly he's appear out of sudden. So that's random error, because random error is our tendency to believe that we can predict the outcome of the random events. So we make a decision sometimes because of random event that's is not it's nothing to do with whatever you are doing, but it's just random. It's like you toss a coin and suddenly you said, "Oh, I got this." It's a signal for you to move ahead or to move backward. So it's kind of random. It has no meaning, but it can be the thing that predict the outcome that you think is predict the outcome. Do not know you understand my explanation, but I try to try to make you clearer in this by giving main example. Maybe you get confused, but anyhow, if you get confused, try to write some notes when you watch this video, and try to write some notes that I'm not clear about this, I'm not clear about that, and then I will explain later when we have a chance. Okay. Risk aversion is normally the person who do not like to be in the risky position or in the risky situation. So they prefer a sure thing, or they prefer to be in their safe zone. So normally those who prefer to be in the safe zone, they do not like to be they do not like change. So risk aversions is they do not like to to be in the risky situation or position. Hindsight bias is a tendency to believe falsely that one has accurately predicted the outcome of an event. For example, after the event has gone, after the time has gone, and then the event happened, and then you tend to say, "Okay, I knew this thing gonna happen." So it seems like you can predict the things well, but it's actually not. You tend to have false belief about something. So hindsight bias is like you are over believe or overestimate about your ability regarding how you perceive something. So here it said you tend to falsely believe that the thing that you predict is actually correct, but it's actually not correct, because only after the time has passed, the event has been done, and then you tend to say, "Okay, I knew this. I have predict this." So it's actually the hindsight bias. So it's also considered as a bias. So there are also factors can influence the way we make a decisions. That can also susceptible to the errors and biases. For example, our personality also can influence the way we make a decision and the way we involve in the biases or tend to make error decision making. And gender also, mental ability also can influence us to make a wrong decision making. And cultural differences also. For example, you mentioned Japan. People in Japan tend to give more importance to the rationality. Even though I mentioned in the beginning, When we talk about the bounded rationality, rational decision making, intuition, normally in general people tend to use bounded rationality and also intuition when make a decision, but depend on the culture, depend on the mental ability. Those who have quite quick at processing information, they tend to be less involved in common bias in terms of decision making. So this also influence your decision making. Sometimes organizational constraint also can make you involved in wrong decision making or create deviations when making a rational decision making. For example, these are among the factor organizational constraint that can lead you to make a wrong decisions in terms of decision making. Okay, it is important to make ethical decision making, especially there are some theory in terms of ethics, utilitarian theory. This is belief in the greatest good for the greatest number. For example, if decision making is, if your decision regarding something could bring good for the greatest numbers for the majority of the public or society, that means your decision making is considered ethical or good. So it's depend on the greatest number. Is the more people get benefit, that means the more it become ethical or the is become better. So there are also these also utilitarian focus on the rights. Right mean to protect the right of the individual. Sometimes when problems happen, some people they will blow the whistle. That's what we said, whistleblower. So let's say an ethical problem happens or unsustainability happening in the organizations or among public. Someone from the organization do not want to show, maybe want to be anonymous, so they blow the whistle, go to the management and blow the whistle about someone who maybe did some ethical behavior, ethical thing in the organization. So they do not want to show themselves. They do not want to be obvious about themselves. They may just go to the management and explain about the unethical problem that happened in the organization. So that's considered as a whistleblower because this person blow the whistle. Management maybe didn't know, but because this person informed the management, so this person become a whistleblower. So management should protect this whistleblower because this whistleblower try to make things right by informing the organizations about the unethical things or unsustainability things happen in the organization or among the society. So it is important to protect the right of the whistleblower and to the right of the individuals. Another thing is looking at the justice. Sometimes it is important to give justice, whether to those who belong to the wrong party or to the right party. So those who maybe did wrong, we still need to give justice. And those who have did a good thing need also to be given justice. So based on when we talk about ethic in decision making, we also need to focus on justice for all, not just for some others, but for all people. So ethics also are based whether it is good or bad, based on justice, based on right, based on the greatest good for the greatest numbers. Okay, contrast which one is best among these three based on utilitarians, right, on justice, which one is best. For non-profit organization, they prefer utilitarians because it's the best interest for the majority. However, for the publics, as an individual publics, normally people prefer to have individual right and also social justice. Behavioral ethics is actually regarding how people behave when confronted with the ethical dilemma. So normally when confronted with ethical dilemma, we do not follow ethical standards. However, there are ways to increase ethical standards in the organization, such as talking about ethical issue, reminders, organization need to talk about issues, explain to the employees, manager need to explain to the employees about the ethical issue in the organization.